projects module provides a location for communities to proactively submit mitigation action forms for prioritized projects in need of funding. In this module, communities are able to apply for projects, then, if funded, manage project implementation steps in accordance with state and federal guidelines. Here is shown the menu structure of the projects module as it appears in CHAMPS, showing the submodule menu dropdown. Here there are 4 submodules: Mitigation Actions, Mitigation Projects, Projects Overview, and Projects Builder. Here shows the 4 submodules in projects and their capabilities. In this video, we will pay special attention to the submodules pertaining to mitigation. These are used to apply for and manage funding through FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, otherwise known as HMGP. In addition to these submodules, customizable application and project management templates can be created for other funding programs. Now let's take a closer look at the process by which one would apply for funds in CHAMPS. One of the major benefits of the projects module is to allow communities the ability to pre-apply for project funding before a disaster occurs. First, the applicant would submit the Mitigation Action Form, or MAF, before the disaster occurs. Then, once a disaster is experienced, the designated manager at the state level will be responsible for creating and entering the incident information for both the state and federal levels in the funding module. Once the disaster declaration has been entered, the applicant will apply the MAF to the disaster event, then submit the application for review and selection by the state. If the MAF is selected, the full application can then be completed and submitted for federal and state review. Lastly, if the application is selected for funding award, the project implementation steps will need to be managed, which can also occur in the projects module. The table shown here demonstrates the CHAMPS role abilities in the Mitigation Actions submodule. While all roles can view MAFs and project applications, the author and local administrator will be responsible for submitting for review, while the manager or administrator will have the ability to review and select projects for funding. Before we give you a brief look at the steps for pre-application in CHAMPS, it's important to be aware that new terminology has been introduced in the state of Kentucky. What was formerly known as the Letter of Intent, or LOI, it's now called the Mitigation Action Form, or MAF for short. This form was previously completed in a Word document offline and is now replaced with an online form that will make the process for applying for projects more efficient. Here's a look at the submenus for the Mitigation Actions submodule and a screenshot of the MAF application page showing the step-by-step instructions that authors and local administrators will experience when completing a MAF. Again, communities may complete MAFs prior to a disaster event, making it ready to go as soon as the declaration is made. The 12-step process is laid out as shown here on the screen. In future navigational tutorials, you may learn how to accomplish each of these steps in more detail. At this point, the MAF is saved in draft form and a disaster has occurred that prompts the designated individual at the state level to create an incident and HMGP funding splits to show local communities funding availability. Communities may then see if and when they may apply their MAF to the associated incidents and submit it for review. To do so, the author of the MAF would revisit Step 2 of the MAF application. Then, under Disaster Funding Source, select the associated federal disaster to which funding is available. Once the MAF has been formally submitted, it's now time to review and select the MAF by the State Hazard Mitigation Council. To do so, the designated individual at the state level will enter into CHAMPS the review and selection that is made by the Council. As you can see on the lower right-hand section of the screen, reviewers may add comments for any needed revisions. If the MAF is selected by the state, the author may then complete the lengthier, more detailed application that will later be submitted to the state and FEMA for review. When the manager at the state level selects a MAF, it's then migrated to the project application. Applicants can complete the full application in the Mitigation Projects Overview submodule. Here, applicants can also add multiple contributors for collaboration on completing the application and then later implementing the project. One of the great benefits of completing an application electronically in CHAMPS is that all the information that had previously been entered in for the MAF will be preloaded into the full application, saving the applicant time from having to re-enter in information. Here you can see that there are more steps involved in the application process, but still it will be guided from start to finish in CHAMPS. In future navigational tutorials, learn how to accomplish each one of these steps. Then once the application is complete and the author has submitted it for review, the designated individual at the state level will conduct a preliminary review followed by a review and approval from FEMA. After review, once the status of the application is ready to be set, the reviewer will be able to either select the project for implementation or make a selection that will not allow it to proceed. The first three buttons shown here are used to return the project to the owner for more edits, reject the project if it is denied, or withdraw the project if it is no longer in consideration for funding. The green button, of course, will be selected to initiate the project for implementation. At the end of the application and selection process, let's consider a project that has been selected and initiated. The next step will be to develop the project management schedule once it has been selected for award. From initiation to closeout, here is shown a basic illustration of the purpose and flow of project management steps. This tool is to serve as a common ground for grant managers at the state level and authors at the local level to track the status of progress. Here you can see the responsibility of managing those steps will be conducted at the state level, of which entails creating project steps and tracking completion through project closeout. To manage projects, one would go to the Project Workspace page found under the Mitigation Projects Overview submodule. Each step shows the owner, start and end date, projected time span for completion, and any notes and reference materials related to this step. Then, once done editing, managers can mark it as complete or incomplete. This will allow the state and local recipients to mutually manage project steps in one centralized location. Finally, the last two submodules of the Projects module is Projects Overview and the Project Builder. This customizable application has been developed for project applications and management that will occur beyond FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, allowing state and federal entities to set a structure for a variety of other funding programs that have different guidelines and regulations. Since each state and federal agency is unique and different from one another, the regulations and guidelines to manage projects may vary. Build your own project application and management templates through a guided step-by-step process, then standardize, share, and reuse templates across programs. By completing projects and mitigation initiatives, our local communities will then become more resilient, therefore building a stronger community profile. This process will always remain cyclical, and that is the reason CHAMPS is there to provide better communication and interactivity among multiple agencies, making disaster management planning more efficient and collaborative for years to come. Once you have requested and gained access to CHAMPS, we encourage you to take advantage of the various training materials that are available to help orient you to the system. Self-guided navigational tutorials have been developed to walk you through each step of the system. Additionally, virtual and hands-on training opportunities are available to you. To see training dates offered, go to www.kym.ky.gov and select the training menu.